Well, this is an exciting time and opportunity for me. This has been a long time coming. I've been a fan of our guest's music and his band for a long time called Stryper. And today he's with us in studio, and his name is Michael Sweet. Michael, it's great to have you here, man.
Great to have you. How are you, buddy?
I'm good.
Long time no see.
Yeah, welcome to Canada.
It's great to be here and to actually have a few days to see some things and spend some time with you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, because normally the band comes in, you do your sound check, your show, then you're on the bus and off to somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. We usually, wherever we go, we're in and out. I mean, we get in the day of the show, 9 times out of 10, and then we leave right after the show. So we don't get the opportunity to see where we're at many times. But, you know, on rare occasion when we do, we take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You know, if we go overseas or whatever, we get out and we try to see some sights and take pictures and videos and spend some time with one another out there. So
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you guys were able to come up, you and your wife and your daughter and friend, and spend some time and see our lovely country. And making the time to come into the studio today, this has been something we've been talking about here at Huntley for a while. And for people who may not know about Stryper, tell us a little bit about the band and how you guys, began, Michael.
Well, we were all raised in musical families and on and off in Christian families. Okay. I came to know the Lord, my brother and I, and my sister, my mom and my dad came to know the Lord through Jimmy Swaggart.
Yeah.
And
so how'd that happen?
Let me get comfortable here.
Yeah.
It happened, believe it or not, just watching television. Like, I think it was my brother who first turned on television and Jimmy Swaggart was on. And he was drawn to that and started watching, and then he got the rest of the family to start watching, and we were all watching Jimmy together. And
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, after, a short period of time, right in front of the television, believe it or not, we accepted Christ.
We believe that because we do that here at Huntley. We always give people a chance to make a decision to follow Christ. That's awesome that you came to faith that way.
That's how we came to faith, and I was 12 years old.
Wow.
So I was a kid, and unfortunately, because I was so young, in my particular circumstance, I walked away. We got into a church, and then I wasn't interested from the age of 13-ish to 20. Wasn't real interested in going to church,
Yeah, so you knew about Jesus, but you just weren't living that life.
Oh yeah, Christ was in my heart, and I knew about it, and that the Holy Spirit was always tugging at my heart whenever I was doing something wrong or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. And what happened was we just got into the whole Hollywood club scene. Yeah. And with that, came a lot of the
traps,
the typical rock and roll lifestyle things that you hear about. But thank God, at the age of 20, we had some friends that started witnessing to us, sharing with us what God had shared with them and told them would do with our band if we devoted it to Him, and we did. Eventually, it took a while. Yeah. But because we were reluctant, and somewhat in denial, and certainly in a backslidden, for lack of a better term, backslidden state, But yeah, so there you go. From age of 20 on, that was 83.
83, okay.
Late 83, and from that point on, it's been nonstop for the most part.
Well, you guys made a decision that you wanted to use the music as a means to get a message out, but you were one member shy in the beginning, and then quickly talk about how the band came together and what was the journey like in those early days, because you guys were pioneering stuff that nobody was doing before.
We were, well, what's funny is we never sat down and said, let's pioneer.
No, nobody does.
No, let's do this, let's be cutting edge, let's try this, no one's done it. We never did that. Yeah. Still don't, never have. But what was really unique with Stryper, and what's really cool still to this day about the band, is we were not a band that was raised in the church.
Right.
A lot of Christian bands are, and that's great. That's a calling, and that's a wonderful thing. And we were talking backstage about how many of those bands play Christian festivals, and they're here more so for Christians, which is fantastic. Stryper's always been more about being here for non-Christians, for people who don't know Christ, who can't relate to church, can't relate to listening to a Christian band, going to a Christian festival, but they can relate to going down to the Whiskey A Go-Go in LA and seeing a metal band. Sure. And then when they come see Stryper, though, there's no compromise in the lyric, there's no compromise in what we do.
No, not at all.
No. they get the word, but at the same time, there's a certain way that it's presented.
So then Stryper released, the Yellow and Black Attack, Soldiers Under Command, but then it wasn't until really 1986 where the album To Hell with the Devil came out, and that really went huge for you guys.
That was the one. I mean, we never really thought about, at least back in those days, I never personally thought about, like, wow, are we going to have a gold record? Are we going to have a platinum album? Never thought about that.
No.
Like, to sell 100,000 copies, 150,000, which is what we did with Yellow and Black Attack, that was huge.
That was great, yeah.
And we were blown away at what God was doing. But To Hell with the Devil, 3 albums in, when that came out, that went gold and then went platinum. And then double platinum. And we went, basically on that tour, we went from playing theaters, around 2,000 capacity venues roughly, to arenas. And playing in front of 10 to 12, 14,000 people.
Everything changed at that point.
It changed within a year and a half.
Okay, now I got to ask, with a Christian band with the album title To Hell with the Devil, what was that like in '86?
Well, you know what was cool? Rob came up with that name, and that had, that had the, it had the power to make people on this side go, wow, that's cool. Yeah, to hell with the devil, you know? Yeah. And then it had the power to people on this side say, yeah, you know, we believe in Christ and not the devil. So exactly. And Satan's going to be cast into, you know, the pit for all eternity eventually someday. And so it made sense to both sides. But then we had the parents and we had the churches that, you know, it really caused a lot of controversy, and they had an issue with it because they felt like it was a swear. They felt, you know, it was something. The kids were getting kicked out of school for wearing To Hell with the Devil shirts.
Oh, wow.
They'd be asked to go change their shirt, and I mean, we got letters from kids telling us this. Pretty amazing. And then the other thing about it is we had a pentagram. There were 4 angels casting Satan into the pit and ripping a pentagram chain off of his neck and throwing it. So there was a pentagram on the album.
Yeah, yeah.
We had to change the album cover because of the controversy that created.
Yeah. You know,
it was crazy.
Yeah, well, for all the controversy that it stirred, it got the band's name out there. There was a lot of attention. This is before social media and the internet, so it was more difficult to get the message out there.
It was really difficult to get the message out there, and yet in some ways it was easier to get the message out there, because what I mean by that is I feel like today's music industry is so inundated. You know, there's so much going on, so many bands, so much music, and I feel that our attention spans have kind of shortened. So it's harder for people to focus on stuff. So it makes it a little more difficult to get the word out there.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense?
Yeah, it does. But I got to say, I'm so glad that you guys did get the word out there, because as a 17-year-old, you know, who was into all the heavy metal and all the dark stuff, you know, I saw the light in a Stryper song on Much Music, which was our MTV at the time. And, you know, today I'm a born-again Christian preaching the gospel around the world. And I'm sure you've heard that from other people.
We have, and it's amazing.
That must be so encouraging.
Yeah, that's the stuff that, you know, this is why we do what we do. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about getting on stage and hearing 10,000 screaming fans or the clothes, and all that stuff's fun. But when you hear stories about people who have devoted their lives to Christ and gone on to share and minister to thousands of other people, that blows my mind. And we have met over the years many people who have become pastors, you know, who have written books, who have recorded music, started bands, successful. I mean, unbelievable. So those are the seeds planted that are growing and taking root and reaching the masses. Yeah,
you know, and it's amazing to see how not just the music has changed, but also how the church's reaction has changed to bands like yourself. I mean, there's still people who would oppose, you know, combining, you know, rock and roll and the message of Christ. But I think, you know, people would say, you know, there's only one way to God, and that's through Jesus. But there are many ways to get people to Jesus, and as long as we get people to Christ, that's the main goal.
Exactly. You know, obviously, I mean, there are sometimes, I'll be honest, there's some Christian bands that I listen to, and I think, wow, they're really Christian, you know, because it's so heavy and it's so dark, and you know what I mean. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. But so I understand people's reservations when they, especially back in the day when Stryper came on the scene, big hair, makeup, all this craziness that had never been done before. So I get why they would look at that and be shocked and think, wait a minute, how can this be of God? But at the same time, a lot of those people have embraced it. You know, and come up to us and said, wow, you know, this is great. Sandy Patty was one of them back in the day, sat down with us and said, you know, I think you guys are great. What you're doing is unbelievable. I'm a big fan and I support you. Pat Boone, you know, so many people that you would think might not support us or think, wow, what is this? They embraced us and really got behind us.
Yeah, well, I feel like we just started talking, so maybe you can stick around sometime this week and come back and talk to us a little bit more, because Stryper is part of your journey, but there's also been some post-Stryper experiences that we want to talk about at a later time.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's so much, and it's that's why I wrote a book, and I still didn't fit it all in, you know.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that, I promise. Thanks so much, Michael, for coming in and sharing.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you know, and for those of you who have been watching, and maybe you've kind of grown up in that whole rock and roll world, and you know, you like the heaviness and all that kind of stuff, I would encourage you to go to Stryper.com. The website's there, and you got to check out the album that's coming out. You know, don't judge the band because of the way they look or they sound. Read the lyrics. They're biblically based, they're solid, and I know that it's going to minister to you like it did to me so many years ago.